Okay. Back at you now. Seth made me cry. And see you later, bud. Okay. There we go. Excuse me. After a smoke break and back to you here. Tears are gone. Okay, I was told who my new neighbor Seth was by Gregory, who was a client of Al's. Al was an older man working for me at the time. He had done this deal, and I figured since Al was also a broker, I wouldn't have to check over his work. He sold this ranch to Gregory. A few days after it closed, I was looking through the transaction and noticed Al did not disclose the HOA to the new buyer. Me and Wendy headed up to Gregory's new place. Was a manufactured home perched atop of a mountain. I was really upset, thinking, who is this guy and is he going to freak out? Will he be litigious? All this was going through my mind and most out of my mouth. We headed up the driveway and had to stop at the top of the hill as there were around 100 cannabis plants in the front driveway for the world to see. I had first a feeling of shock, then total worry about the neighbors. The one neighbor was active in the HOA and was definitely going to have an issue. We explained everything and did our best over the years to help Gregory out to be successful. Wendy knows everyone and was able to smooth things over. He had many partners over the years that never worked out. His problems was always with his property he bought, as it didn't have privacy and much usability. In the end, he attached a huge greenhouse to the back of the manufactured home with massive raised bed lights and a lot of lumber. It was actually a mess. So Gregory had his eye on a better growing property. We had a murder cabin for sale at the time. It was a 320-acre piece of property near the top of Red Mountain in Walker Basin. It was called Murder Cabin due to the murder that happened in the 1980s at the cabin on the property. Apparently, it was a big bud farm back then when cannabis was very illegal, and there was a shootout over bud back then on the property, hence the name. The cabin was pretty cool. It was spring-fed place on a jaw-dropping massive property, completely private and sustainable, or so Greg thought. He bought the property. The escrow was a long, tenuous process. It was the only and last time I ever did a property purchase with money orders. There's so many money orders. I was surprised that Chicago did the deal, but they were okay with it back then. Now it's not permitted. The property got off to a good start, so he had gotten the spring to produce a full water tower, 3,500 gallons a day for his plants. He had gotten himself a nice Airstream that he had bought, and he had hauled up the mountain. It was a perfect setup, but like the years before, Gregory needed a caretaker or partner, and that never worked out. Gregory is always seeming to get burned, and this time it was literal and permanent. As the story was told to me, Gregory went to a forest party. Apparently is a party for people named Forrest or with disabilities, I'm not sure. But Gregory left the property with a new caretaker who was both. Apparently this dude had some mental disabilities and had convinced Gregory that he was the man's man and could handle the grow no problem. In fact, he was so tough that he didn't need anything except bullets to hunt with. I can remember Gregory bragging about this guy and how he eats roadkill. I thought it sounds really stupid at the time, but what do you say to someone? Apparently, Forrest did really good, in my opinion. I think he lasted a week on the property. Gregory was really cautious with this new grow, and he took Forrest up to the property in the middle of the night, so he didn't know where it was or how far out he was. See, the property is about 10-mile hike back down the mountain into civilization. This guy thought he was in the middle of Alaska or something. In his panic over not having provisions except for water from the spring, Forrest decided to light a fire. We saw the news report that a massive grow was busted at Walker Basin. It was really wild to hear the full story after. Gregory sold both places. We resold the original ranch for him. He made quite a profit on that one. With an absolute mess and cleanup, we worked for weeks cleaning that house and demolishing the greenhouse. The other property was for sale for twice what he paid for it. Unfortunately, it sat on the market for quite a while. And recently it burned in the same fire that took my ranch and started at Seth's place. Pretty ironic. The plight of the farmer can be demonstrated in this last story. There was a tenant of a ranch that I represented that was growing for a local dispensary. I thought it was pretty cool at the time that all of this was going on. I told them that if they had any problems, they should just call. I also let them know that they needed a dog or cat to maintain and keep the wildlife and rodents away. They said no way to animals anywhere near their crop. So I actually said to them, well, you need to water your squirrels then. I had problems with squirrels for years. It is so sad. They just snap the plants and lick the stalks. I found after many battles that they were after was some water. I found after many battles that all they were after was some water. So I came up with the idea that why not water the squirrels when you water your plants? It worked for me, and I actually had a squirrel wait for me at the garden sitting next to the water bowl. As long as I watered them too, they wouldn't touch my plants. So I did tell the story to the tenants, but they did not heed my warning. I got a call from the tenant, and he said he had to move. I was shocked because they had just gotten their garden up for the year. When I got to the property, the tenant had his cell phone and wanted to show me a video. They had 150 plants in the main garden, all about 6 foot high, early in vegetative growth. Apparently the squirrels had destroyed his garden. He said he went out the first night and they had gotten a handful of plants. The tenant then shot a bunch of them, put them on stakes around the plants like Vlad the Impaler with squirrels. He tells me this, then says, watch the video. There they were, squirrels dead and a top of T-posts around the plants. And in the video, you see other squirrels run and jump up on the dead ones, using them like trampolines to jump up and grab the plants. It was so shocking, I couldn't help but giggle a bit. So sad they lost their whole garden in 3 nights. 150 full-size plants and another 300 babies. It was really sad, and they just invested thousands in this garden. Lost it all over a lick of water. It sounds like easy business growing, but it's still farming. We say you judge a grower by how many different problems they've dealt with. We've had spider mites one time on a little indoor we did on our well house. So we took the little hydro system outside, poured sugar and soda around the system, and after 2 days, bees and ants invaded and ate all the little spiders off the plants. We were able to harvest that crop. Another time we had a root-eating bug in our garden. Wendy dug up all the affected plants. Careful not to break any of them little roots. She washed all the dirt off the roots, got the bugs out, then replanted each one of them. It was crazy that they lived, and the problem was solved. It's been a blessing to be able to provide our own smoke for so many years. It's very expensive medicinally to buy. Seems like every year we are trying different strains. Some were crazy, like Pineapple Express was a 12-foot plant that produced a great tasting, super strong bud. Actually made people, including me, pass out after a bong toke. Seriously, like, and hit the ground. Blue Dream is the best outdoor as well. It was so good, the buds were dripping with resin and keef. All the Kush plant streams do well. All that being said, I wouldn't choose bud farming as a profession. The plight of the farmer. What a trip. And here is a picture of me and my lady in our garden. Pretty nice, huh? Yeah, those are some nice colas there. And my wife's tongue. That was a fun one.